Hello, welcome back to the channel. Or if this is your first time, thanks for stopping in. Today I want to talk about an affordable dive watch collection, or two of my favorite affordable dive watches. At least two of my favorite brands. We got Casio and Seiko, and more specifically, we've got the Casio Duro, an amazing value diver watch from Casio, and of course my one and only SKX007, and this is the J1. This is a discontinued series, but it is representative of an entry-level diver from Seiko, so I wanted to just do a side-by-side and see how our Casio aligns with our Seiko in today's video. Seiko, the SKX007, no longer in production as of 2019. I will put up on the screen a couple of options that you can buy today from Seiko and one from Orient, two of my favorite contenders to replace my SKX007 in my rotation, which I'll never be getting rid of this watch, but not everything is perfect with this watch. Let's just say that. And the same thing goes for our Duro. Amazing watch, incredible value for the money. MSRP of $69.95, but there are some elements to this that could be improved as well. Anyway, I thought that would be an interesting topic today. Before we get started, let's introduce our co-star today. I do have, let's see, we've got on the desk Sean Connery. That's Henry Jones Sr., if you will. There he is. And this is a great likeness to the late, great Sir Sean Connery.
Well, he don't come any closer than that.
Of Highlander fame, The Untouchables, and of course, the original James Bond, an amazing actor. And this is the Henry Jones Sr. character from the greatest Indiana Jones film, The Last Crusade. So Henry Jones Sr., Sir Sean Connery is our co-star today. Real quick, let's do a quick wrist check. And I am wearing a G-Shock, and this has got a James Bond vintage NATO strap with the adapter kit. And this is the original GWM 5610, the original module with the old EL backlight, the old blue-green looking light that's so amazing. Can you see that? This module has since been upgraded, and I do have that version as well. One of my favorite all-time G-Shocks, but this is about diver watches today, even though this does have 200-meter water resistance. All right, Casio Duro versus our Seiko SKX007. Let's get started. All right, before we get started too closely on the comparison side, let's look at each watch individually and go over some of the specs of these great watches. As we look at our Casio, this is the MDV 106-1A Duro, or sometimes referred to as the Marlin. Originally released in 2011, MSRP is currently $69.95 on Casio's website. I bought this one for like $35 on a sale. You can get these all day within that range, and they're still readily available as of the recording of this video. Now, one thing I will say about the nickname, you do see that logo there. That's a sailfish or a marlin. That's how it got the nickname Marlin. And I have heard that this feature is going away. This is not an applied. This is a printed on the beautiful gradient dial sailfish, I believe. You see the water resistant 200-meter. Just a great looking dial. We do have applied indices, a framed date only window, mineral glass. But back to the sailfish or the marlin, there have been rumors that they are removing this from the print of the dials of the newer releases of the Duro. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I'm probably going to be buying more of these, so I'll find out, because this watch is such a bargain and there's amazing colorways in the lineup currently. So definitely going to be checking that out. Going over, again, our specs. Stainless steel case, of course. 44mm case width. 48mm lug to lug. We have 12mm on the case thickness, because this is a quartz-driven, battery-powered watch. So a little bit lower profile there. This one's definitely not a small watch, though. It's going to take up a lot of real estate on the wrist. So this can be challenging for those with smaller wrist sizes. Weight, 92 grams or 3.2 ounces. We do have mineral glass, and it is slightly raised above. There's a little bevel there right above the bezel, but beautiful mineral glass. We have a aluminum bezel insert there on our 120 click coined edge rotating bezel, and it has a wonderful tactile click and feel to it. Definitely a good tolerance. Very functional. and great looking. Talked about our hands. We have applied indices, printed Casio logo, printed sailfish or marlin, if you will. Great looking brushing on the top of the lugs. The side angle is beautiful polishing and an unsigned crown. Nice crown guards that have the same sequence of polish and brushing. Just a great looking case, great looking watch. Lug width of 22 millimeter. I love how this stock Casio band with a stainless steel buckle sort of wraps around the lug there, sort of giving a nice complement to the presentation there. But 22 millimeter, you can switch this out for a NATO. Put any watch band that you like. 22 millimeter is pretty much a standard in the dive watch genre. And this watch just looks great. So there you have it. Let's go ahead and go for the dismount here, just so we can finish our walk around of this awesome watch. Get a look at the case back. And again, you see that marlin or sailfish on the back. We have water resistant 20 bar or 200 meter. We have our module is 2784. Model number. And this is our Casio Duro. Amazing watch. Let's talk about our Seiko SKX007. Again, this was an entry-level diver in the mid-90s for Seiko, and it launched at $150 MSRP. If I could go back in time, I'd probably buy 10 more of these, but this is an amazing watch, and this represented their version of what they considered to be an entry-level diver at the time. It sports a classic pillow-style case. There's a bit of a throwback to the mid-60s diver watches. Of course, it's stainless steel, wonderful polishing. They have a double coined edge, rotating bezel. This one is not as tactile or as crisp as the Duro. It's got a little bit of dampening to the detent, but still very functional and amazing looking. We do have that aluminum insert, wonderful coined edge on the bezel, unsigned crown, beautiful crown guards, sort of has the same kind of brushing on the top line as the Duro with a polishing element on the sides. You notice on neither one of these watches do we have drilled lugs, so makes your band or strap swap outs a little bit more challenging because you don't want to scratch this beautiful polish. Hardlex crystal from Seiko. This is their version of mineral glass, and they say this is much more compatible with diving as it will not shatter like sapphire may under pressure. Have wonderful applied lume elements to the indices. Printed Seiko automatic. We have divers, 200 meter, 21 jewels printed on the dial, which is more of a flat black finish, but beautiful elements here. And we'll zoom in and try to get a closer look at this great watch. Unlike our Duro, we do have date, but we also have day, which is nice. And let's talk about the sizing of this watch. The sizing is a little bit different than our Duro, and this is a little bit more of a smaller form factor. We have 42.5 millimeter case width. Lug to lug is 46 millimeter. It stands a little taller because it is an automatically moved watch, 13.25 millimeters of thickness on the case. And the weight is going to be heftier. I did put an upgraded Seiko silicone band. There's a little bit of heft to this one. This one, as it sits, is 118 grams or 4.1 ounces. Depending on the band, that weight will fluctuate. But hey, amazing watch. And I think the size is just about perfect. I think 42 millimeter is the sweet spot for a diver, especially if you're engaging the bezel and wanting to use it in a dive application, which I will not be, but love the action adventure element to a dive watch. And these are just timeless, pun intended, and they dress up nicely. And depending on the watch band, there's metallic bands, there's bracelets, there's silicone bands such as this one, and of course your NATO straps. Oh, real quick, I want to go ahead and go for the dismount with our 007 and look at the case back real quick. Have that wonderful Seiko wave, and you can see that automatic movement is giving you a little bit more thickness on the overall, but wonderful polishing on the bottom side. And one thing we'll point out, it is on the case side of the SKX007, you can see the movement. The 7S26 movement is not my favorite movement. It is an outdated value entry-level movement. I don't even know if they're still making them or still making watches with that movement, but it is not a hackable movement. In other words, if we're setting the time and we pull out our second stop to set the time, the second hand does not stop, so you cannot hack the time. Also, it's not a windable crown with the movement. It relies on motion to inertia drive the mechanism to wind the watch. So this one tends to lose power quite a bit if I don't wear it. And that's about the biggest complaint I have about the SKX007 is the outdated movement that is not hackable. Other thing I would love to have seen was drilled lugs for swapping out the bracelet, because this gorgeous polish, if you're digging in there with a tool, you can scratch the underside trying to pop out a watch band. But that's about it. I mean, I love it. I love the watch. The Hardlex crystal is no complaint here. I have seen folks that will mod these and put sapphire glass, but I mean, I have had this watch for years and years and there's no scratches on it. So it's held up great. And that's about what I would change on our SKX007. Just a gorgeous, great watch. Let's grab the Duro and talk about issues with this. The number one issue is probably the number one strength of the SKX, and that's the lume. The lume that's applied to this watch it's horrible. I'll say it. If this watch had lume, look out Seiko, look out Citizen, because I don't know why you would look elsewhere for a watch. The biggest complaint I've had about my analog watches with Casio has been the lack of lume, and that's definitely a strength of our SKX007, and I will do a B-roll of these side by side with a little bit of lume, just to show you that example. It's night and day, literally, but definitely want to point that out. So the biggest thing I would change, improve on the SKX007 is the movement. The biggest thing I would improve on the Casio Duro is the lack of functional lume. Other than that, an amazing watch. So let's go ahead and do some side-by-side shots, and we'll get these on wrists, and we'll wrap up this video. Again, this was hopefully giving you an idea of how these sort of line up. Let's look at the top line. Crown to crown. Very, very good looking watches. Either one of these. Let's take a look at the case thickness differences there. Also, our mineral glass versus the Hardlex. Hardlex is a little bit flatter. There's a little bit more of a bevel to the Casio. So what do you think about these watches? I love them both. I think they're both amazing, and I'll always have these in my collection. But for the money, for the availability, how anybody doesn't have one or two or three of these, it's hard to argue or talk somebody out of buying these watches. And I think Casio is an amazing company and they're making amazing products. Huge fan of Seiko, but we'll see what we come up with to compare to the idea of replacing our SKX007. We'll see if there's any watches that can dethrone my love for the SKX007 from Seiko. Is there a new entry-level diver, true diver? I don't believe many of the Seiko 5s, if any, are 20-meter water resistance, so I can't say the Seiko 5 series is taking the place of the SKX. You'd have to look at the Prospex series, but that's a different video. So without further ado, let's get these on wrist. And that means I've got to take off my G-Shock, which is so comfortable and amazing with this vintage James Bond NATO. Love this watch too. There's a side-by-side. That's a great two-watch collection right there. There, I said it. All right, let's get the Casio on wrist. Our Duro, and again, this is the larger watch, but it rides a little lower, and it's actually a little lighter. So on my 6 3/4 inch wrist, you can see the lug-to-lug span. It does take up some real estate, but still very doable. Still very functional. very comfortable, and it just works. You can dress this watch up. You can make it an action adventure watch. You can make it a sport watch. And again, changing out your straps and bands is just adding a lot more versatility to the watch. There's our Casio Duro. Let's get our SKX007 on wrist and we'll wrap up the video. Again, this is an iconic watch, no longer in production, but I will always have this watch because this does represent, to me, it's called the 007. It represents the sort of the golden years of James Bond, which was the 60s. It's got that classic 60s diver. Is that in focus? It's got that classic 60s diver watch look. It just looks incredible. It is very comfortable. Again, a little bit taller, but it makes quite a statement for itself, and I love it. Love the 4 o'clock position of the screw down crown. Crown guards are just enough. It gives you almost a turtle vibe from this angle, but just a classic watch. I don't know, man. I can't decide which one do I wear today. I guess I'm going to keep this one on for a while. Definitely feels a little bit more top heavy than our Duro, but these are two incredible watches, and I enjoyed sharing these with you. Please let me know your thoughts. I hope this was interesting for you. Hope you at least found it entertaining, but we will be back, and I'll be looking at other watches that I would recommend if you were looking to scratch the SKX007 itch. Check that video out. I don't know when I'm going to make it, but I've got to get some other watches in here to sort of compare. But hopefully this gave you a good look at our Duro and how it holds its own against our SKX007. I'm putting this one on. All right, now I've decided. All right, we're going with the Duro. This SKX007 is incredible, but I think I'm going to finish my day wearing a Duro and highly recommend it. And I think it did really well. All right, that's what I got for this one, folks. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more. I'll see you next time. All right, let me put the SKX back on. Forget it. Or, no, we'll go with the G-Shock. No. All right. Now we can go.